She was never supposed to see it. The small, cold key had been buried in the corner of his wallet like a secret, begging to stay hidden. It didn't match anything in their penthouse. Not the wine cellar, not the private study, not even the garage vault. When she held it up, his face turned stone. "Where does this open?" He didn't answer. He snatched it, shoved it into his pocket, and said one thing. "Don't ever touch that again." She nodded. But the next morning, she made a copy. "Welcome back to Mr. Charles' Stories, where we share true-to-life love. Stories packed with raw emotion, powerful lessons, and quiet strength. If you've ever loved deeply and wondered what was hidden behind someone's silence, this story is for you. Make sure to subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments as we go. Your voice matters. Now, let's begin." Solane Vance sat at her easel, brush resting between her fingers, but the canvas in front of her remained untouched. She hadn't painted in 3 days. The light in the penthouse was perfect, sun bleeding through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting gold across the marble floors. But inside her chest, there was a quiet she hadn't learned to name yet. She glanced at the time. 12:07 p.m. Kaylin was late again, or early, or simply gone. With Kaylin, time had become a flexible lie. When he did come home, it was with the hush of an executive ghost. Suit sharp, phone glued to his ear, lips pressed to her forehead without thought. As though affection had become routine, a handshake, not a heartbeat. He hadn't asked about her newest painting in months. He hadn't asked much of anything. Kaylin Vance was once the boy who sat on her thrift store rug, sipping cheap coffee, dreaming of Manhattan offices and Forbes covers. He had been warmth in winter, passion on borrowed pillows, a man who believed in eye contact and handwritten notes. They'd lived on noodles and adrenaline, fought over rent, made up with laughter under broken ceiling fans. But now, he was a headline, a walking balance sheet. His name moved markets, and his eyes rarely moved to her. Solane missed the version of him that smiled without checking his watch. She missed the version of herself that believed she still mattered to him. She didn't mean to touch his wallet. Kaylin had left it on the hallway table, a rare slip. He had flown to Zurich that morning and texted once, "Back late. Don't wait up." Solane was walking past when she saw it. She didn't snoop. Not at first. She only picked it up to slide in a sticky note. She used to leave them all the time. Little hearts, quick sketches, words like "You've got this" or "I still see you." But when she opened the wallet to find space, she found the key. Small, cold, wrong, a strange shape, a cut that looked nothing like their home locks. Her breath slowed. She knew every drawer in the penthouse, every safe, every spare. This wasn't theirs. It wasn't hers. That evening, he returned around 9. He didn't see her at first. Solane stood near the bookshelf, holding the key. He paused mid-stride when he noticed. Everything in him locked up, jaw, eyes, breath. "Where did you find that?" he asked. "Your wallet," she said softly. A long beat passed. No smile, no explanation. He walked over slowly, plucked the key from her hand, and tucked it into his pocket like a buried grenade. "Don't ever touch that again." His voice was flat, final. She blinked. "What is it for?" "You don't need to know." That night, they barely spoke. He kissed her shoulder and rolled away. Solane lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, heartbeat in her throat. She wanted to believe it was nothing. A forgotten office drawer, an old safe, a rental car key from a business trip. But nothing sat right. Not his silence, not his hands, which had trembled for just a second when he took it back. Not the fact that he said, "Promise me," and she had nodded. But in her mind, something else whispered, "Find out." The next day, Kaylin flew to Geneva. Solane waited 20 minutes after his driver pulled away before she reached into his drawer and pulled out the key he thought was hidden. She drove to a locksmith on a quiet street in Queens. Not one of their usual spots. Somewhere anonymous. The man behind the counter barely looked up. "Can you make a copy?" He turned the key over once. 5 minutes. She waited in silence. The copy was lighter, colder, but identical. She slipped it into her coat and walked back out into a city that suddenly felt foreign. She waited 3 days. He was scheduled to attend a charity gala, one of those black tie affairs he only brought her to when press demanded it. This time, he went alone. Selene watched his car leave from the living room window. The city sparkled below. She walked to the hallway. The door he always locked stood tall and still. She slid the key into the lock. It clicked. The door creaked open, and the breath in her lungs collapsed. Not a wine cellar, not a study, not a storage closet for suits or investments. It was a nursery, painted in soft blue, decorated with intention. A plush ivory rug covered the floor. The crib stood like a secret monument in the center of the room. It hadn't been used yet, still spotless. Folded blankets with hand-stitched stars. A nameplate carved into the crib rail, Evance. Selene froze. The air inside the room pressed into her chest. On the far wall, 3 framed photos sat on a shelf. Kaylin was smiling in all of them. A kind of smile she hadn't seen in years. He was crouched beside a small child, no more than 2, holding the toddler's hand, tossing him into the air, wrapping him in a hug. The mother in the photos wasn't her. Selene backed up, pressing one hand over her mouth. The silence roared in her ears. This wasn't some abstract betrayal. This was deliberate, curated, hidden. A whole child, a whole room, a whole truth she had never been invited to know. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She stood in the doorway until her legs stopped shaking. Then, carefully, she closed the door, locked it again, and slid the copied key back into her pocket. She didn't sleep that night. Not because of anger, not because of heartbreak, but because of clarity. She sat at the window, staring at the city she once loved, arms wrapped around her knees. The skyline blinked in lights and promises. All she could think about was how expertly she had been removed from the center of Kaylin's world. A marriage that began with coffee and struggle had turned into a contract filled with blind spots. He had made decisions without her. He had written a chapter of his life and ripped out the pages before she could read them. She didn't want revenge. She wanted freedom from the silence. By sunrise, her bag was packed. She didn't take much, just the essentials. A few outfits, a notebook, her favorite brushes. She left her wedding band in the ceramic bowl beside the sink. It made no sound when it landed. She sat down at the dining table with 1 cup of tea and the copied key between her fingers. Waiting. At noon, Kaylin returned. The door clicked open. He walked in like always, business jacket over his arm, phone in hand, keys in the other. He glanced up mid-step and saw her. He paused. "Slow?" he asked carefully. "Why are you home?" Selene didn't answer. She didn't need to. She slid the copied key across the table. It landed between them. Kaylin stared at it. The silence hung like ice. He didn't sit. She did. Her voice was calm. "Who is he?" Kaylin looked at her like he was trying to find a way to rewind time. He blinked, swallowed, looked down. Then quietly, "He's my son." He sank into the chair across from her. For a long time, he didn't speak, just sat there, rubbing his hands together. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he began. "It wasn't supposed to become anything." Selene kept her eyes on him, not angry, just listening. "Milan. 2 years ago, I was there for the investor summit. I met her at a dinner. She was a translator for one of the speakers. We talked. I was frustrated. You and I weren't..." "We weren't what?" Selene asked softly. "We weren't close. You barely spoke to me. I thought you didn't want this anymore." She didn't flinch. "So instead of fixing us, you started a new life." It wasn't love. It was comfort. It happened once. Her fingers traced the rim of the teacup. She reached out 6 months later, he continued. "Told me she was pregnant. Said she didn't want anything. No scandal, no name, just support. And you gave it," Selene said. Kaylin nodded. "I set them up in a townhouse in Queens. paid quietly, visited when I could. I thought I was managing it. You weren't managing it, she said. You were living it. He couldn't respond. She asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't know how to." "No," she said, standing slowly. "You didn't want to." He stood too, panic cracking through his polished exterior. "Slow, please. Don't call me that." He nodded once, like the loss of that name struck harder than expected. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said. "You didn't want consequences." She reached for her bag, lifted it, wore it like a coat she'd outgrown. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Somewhere I don't have to knock before opening a door in my own home." She moved toward the hallway. Kaylin followed, but didn't reach for her. The elevator opened as she approached it. She stepped inside, turned to him one last time. "I would have loved him too, you know," she said. "You didn't have to do this alone. You chose to." Then the doors closed. Selene didn't tell anyone. No screaming at the tabloids. No press interviews. No lawyers. She disappeared quietly, moved into a one-bedroom in Montclair, taught weekend art classes, painted again. She changed her number, started walking to the farmer's market, found a coffee shop that didn't know her name. Freedom didn't feel loud. It felt still, breathable, new. The headlines didn't notice her absence. But Kaylin did. He called the first week. Every day. She didn't block him. She just never picked up. Week 2, silence. Week 3, 2 emails. No subject lines. Month 1, a car parked outside her building. No driver, just presence. Selene ignored it all. She had nothing to say, until the box came, wrapped in brown paper. No sender, no note. Inside, a stack of drawings, crayon, markers, finger paint. One of a woman with dark hair and a purple shirt. She was smiling. Behind her, a tall man. And a small boy in the middle, holding her hand. Selene sat on the floor and wept, but not for Kaylin, for the little boy who had drawn her without ever knowing her name, and somehow had still drawn her smiling. If someone you love hid a secret this big, would you stay or would you walk away? Tell us in the comments. And if you believe some doors, once opened, change everything, like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more stories that remind us what dignity looks like in silence. Montclair was quieter than Manhattan. Selene could hear her own thoughts here. The apartment she rented wasn't glamorous. 1 bedroom, brick walls, radiators that hissed when they warmed up. But it felt honest. She bought her own groceries, brewed her own coffee, watered her plants on the windowsill. No one asked her for anything. No one expected her to smile for investors. No one told her how to exist. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not her sister in Oregon. Not the art collector who once tried to sign her. Not even the woman at the corner store who always complimented her scarf. Some endings don't need explanations. They only need space. The first month passed like a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She began teaching weekend art workshops at the community center. Children came in covered in noise and chaos and left with paint on their cheeks and stories in their eyes. Selene rediscovered her own voice through them. Not in big ways, not in speeches or sermons, but in the small things. Like when a girl named Raina painted a bird with too many wings and said, "It's okay, some people need more ways to fly." Or when a boy named Miles spilled green paint and said, "Oops, but now it's grass." Children forgave their accidents faster than adults forgave betrayal. And yet, somehow, it all helped. Kaylin didn't reach out in month 2, or month 3. By month 4, Selene believed maybe he had accepted it, that she was gone. She hadn't opened the box of drawings again. She'd tucked them into the bottom drawer of her dresser. Too heavy to display, too sacred to throw away. She didn't stop loving art. She didn't stop breathing. She didn't stop missing the version of Kaylin that only existed in the past, but she stopped wondering if he'd show up. Until one Saturday afternoon, she was cleaning out her studio space at the center, wiping paint jars, tossing dried-up brushes, when she saw the shadow in the doorway. She turned, expecting a student. Kaylin stood there instead. No suit, no swagger, just jeans and a grey sweater that looked borrowed from a quieter life. He didn't speak right away. Solenni didn't either. "I'm not here to ask for anything," Kaylin said. His voice was low. She watched him from across the room. "I just wanted you to know." "He asks about you." Solenni blinked. "Once. Why would he? I kept your photo in my office once. He saw it when I visited him." She stayed silent. "He remembers your paintings. He said he saw one of them on a magazine once and asked if the lady was the woman from the sky pictures." Her throat tightened. "And what did you say? That it was someone I used to know?" He shifted his weight, looked down, then back at her. "I was a coward." She crossed her arms but said nothing. "I was afraid that telling you would ruin everything. But hiding it didn't save anything," she said. Kaylin nodded. "No, it didn't." Another silence passed. Then, softly, she asked, "What's his name?" "Elior." She looked at him then, fully. Her expression didn't change, but her breath did. "He has your eyes," Kaylin added. "Not biologically, but the same quiet. Why come now?" "He drew you again," Kaylin said. "Sent it to me. Said he missed the lady he never met." Solenni turned away, faced the canvas she hadn't touched in weeks. She didn't know if the ache in her chest was guilt, grief, or something else entirely. "I'm not here to reopen anything," Kaylin said. "I just wanted you to know he remembers." And with that, he turned to go. She didn't stop him, but she didn't forget those words either. That night, she opened the box of drawings again. She laid them out on the floor. Every page, every color, every version of her he imagined. In each one, she was smiling. In some, she held a book. In others, a bird. One had her holding hands with a child, presumably him, with 3 hearts above their heads. She stared at that one for a long time. It wasn't Kaylin who broke her. It was the reminder that the child had never asked for any of this. 2 weeks later, she sent a letter. No return address, just one sentence. "I'd like to meet him, but only him." Kaylin never replied in words. But 3 days later, she received a message from the community center receptionist. "A man dropped off a folder for you," she said. Said it was from a friend. Inside, a schedule, a list of places Elior liked, a hand-drawn map to a quiet park in Queens, a note in blocky pencil handwriting, "Can we draw together?" The park sat just outside the noise of Queens. No bright lights, no press, no reason for anyone to look twice. Solenni arrived early. She sat on a bench near the duck pond, holding a small sketch pad and a clean set of colored pencils. The wind carried the soft rustle of leaves and distant traffic. Mothers pushed strollers. A boy rode past on a bike, too fast. And then, "Hi." She looked up. He stood there with Kaylin at his side, a little boy in a navy blue hoodie and tiny sneakers, gripping a folded piece of paper. Elior. Kaylin stayed back. No introductions, no forcing, just a nod. Elior looked at Solenni with a kind of curiosity adults forget how to use. She smiled softly. "Hi there." He didn't speak, just reached out and handed her the paper. She unfolded it. A drawing. It was them, her and Elior, sitting on the same bench. In the picture, they were both smiling. "You remembered this bench?" she asked. He shrugged. "I saw it in a picture. You were here once with paints." Solenni's heart ached. That photo must have been taken years ago, before she knew about him, before Kaylin's betrayal, before the silence. But Elior remembered something that had never even happened. He had imagined a moment, and then made it real. They sat together on the bench. She handed him the sketchpad. "Want to draw something else?" He nodded. She passed him the pencils. He chose yellow. Began outlining a sun with too many rays. "Looks like it's dancing," she said. He giggled. "Suns get tired of standing still too." Solenni glanced up at Kaylin, still standing by the trees. She didn't invite him over. He didn't ask. This moment wasn't about him. Elior was quiet, but not shy. He hummed while he drew, made up names for the birds, asked what her favorite color was, then used only that one for the next 10 minutes. He didn't talk about his mother. He didn't mention Kaylin. And Solène didn't press. They weren't building a family. They were simply meeting, human to human, heart to heart. Later, he looked up at her and asked, "Can I come again next week?" She blinked. "If your dad says it's okay." Kaylin stepped closer then, cautiously. "He'll be here," he said. "If you're willing." Solène nodded once. "Just him?" "Of course," Kaylin said. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't push, didn't beg, didn't ask for more. He simply said, "Thank you." Over the next few weeks, Elior and Solène met every Sunday. He brought stories. She brought markers. They drew dragons, buildings, galaxies. Sometimes he asked questions about colors or shading. Sometimes he just sat beside her, content with the quiet. Kaylin never joined them. He stood nearby, reading or pretending to scroll through his phone, but his presence was steady. And slowly, Solène stopped resenting him for it. One afternoon, Elior arrived with a small canvas in his backpack. He pulled it out proudly. "It's for your house," he said. "Because you make pretty ones." The painting was abstract, bright swirls, dots that looked like stars. "I call it happy space," he said, "because when I think of you, it feels like that." Solène's throat tightened. She crouched to meet his eyes. "Thank you, Elior. This is beautiful." He smiled and hugged her. It was the first time he had, and she didn't let go right away. That evening, Kaylin approached her quietly as Elior ran ahead, chasing leaves. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. Solène looked at the boy, laughing in the distance. "You don't need to." Kaylin's voice cracked. "I was wrong about everything." She nodded. "You were." He waited for her to add more. She didn't. Instead, she said, "He's the best part of you." Kaylin swallowed hard. "I see that now." Solène didn't forgive him in that moment. But she didn't hate him either. Somewhere between what was and what would never be, they both learned to exist. By the end of the second month, Solène had framed Elior's painting. It sat above her kitchen table. Every time she looked at it, she was reminded, not all endings are tragedies. Some are turning points. Some are quiet beginnings in disguise. And some are simply new chances to be present, fully, honestly, and without expectation. A new season had started. The air in Montclair turned crisp. Leaves rustled along the sidewalks, painted in burnt orange and deep red. The city moved slower in the fall, quiet, reflective. Solène adjusted to the rhythm without effort. Her apartment smelled of cinnamon and turpentine. Candles burned low beside her newest canvas, still unfinished. Her life didn't feel perfect, but it finally felt hers. Elior had become part of her Sundays, always on time, always full of color. He didn't ask her to be anything. He only asked if they could draw again. Each visit brought something new, a painting, a story, a silly joke, a question she wasn't always ready for. "Do you believe stars talk to each other?" he asked once, while painting dots across a dark page. "I think they must," she said. "Some of them have been next to each other forever." He nodded. Like friends who don't need to say a lot, they just shine. She had no idea how a boy so small could carry so much insight. One afternoon, Solène arrived at the park early. She had an idea, something she'd been thinking about for weeks. She brought 3 blank canvases. Elior arrived, bounding ahead of Kaylin, hoodie slipping off one shoulder. He ran straight to her and grinned. "What are we painting today?" "Our story," she said. He tilted his head. "We have a story?" "Every person you meet creates one with you," she said. "Ours is still being painted." He lit up. "Can we use all the colors?" "All of them." They started with their favorite things. She drew birds. He drew stars. She added a bench. He added the sun from his first picture. Together, they filled the canvas. Kaylin watched from a distance. He didn't step in. He never did anymore. Halfway through, Elior paused. He wiped green paint on his sleeve and looked up at her. "Will you ever come over?" he asked. Soline's hand froze mid-stroke. "Come where?" "Our house. Daddy has a garden now, and I made a room for you, with purple things. You like purple, right?" She swallowed. Kaylin looked up then, sensing the shift. "I don't know if I'll come over," she said gently. "But I'm here now." Elior nodded. "Okay." He didn't pout. He didn't cry. He simply turned back to his painting. Soline wondered how much that quiet acceptance had already been taught to him. Later that evening, Kaylin walked over as she cleaned the brushes. Elior had run off to chase leaves again. "She told him," Kaylin said. Soline looked up. "His mother," he clarified. "She told him you were someone important." He didn't understand, but he knew enough to hope. Soline dried her hands on a cloth. "I'm not stepping into anything that doesn't make sense." "I know. I'm not here to fix what broke." He nodded. "You don't have to." She looked at him, really looked at him. Kaylin no longer looked like the man she married. There was humility in his posture now, a soft ache behind his eyes. "Why did you let me go so easily?" she asked, surprising herself. Kaylin didn't deflect. "I thought you'd come back after the storm passed. I thought if I gave you space you'd miss me." "I didn't," she said softly. "I missed the man you were. But not the one you became." He nodded once, and that silence between them, long and overdue, settled like closure. That night, back in her apartment, Soline stood in front of her newest blank canvas. She didn't want to paint the pain. She wanted to paint what remained. She began with a single violet line. Then a child's handprint in the corner. She didn't need Elior's actual hand to see it. She knew it by memory now. In the middle, she painted 3 stars. Different sizes, but close, always close. Then she set the brush down and exhaled. By the next week, Elior brought her a note, spelled awkwardly in colorful crayon. "Thank you for still seeing me." She blinked. "Did you write this?" He nodded proudly. "Why those words?" "Because you look at me like I matter." She knelt beside him, wrapped her arms around him gently and whispered, "You do." Kaylin watched from a distance, but this time his eyes weren't filled with longing. They held gratitude. He had lost something. Yes, but what he had gained in this quiet, redemptive in-between. He finally understood its weight. Soline hadn't realized how much of her life had been edited down to polite silence. Before the key, before the nursery, before Elior. She had smiled through fundraising dinners, nodded through investment updates, and worn elegant dresses to rooftop galas where no one asked what she loved, only who she stood beside. But now, the paint under her nails, the laughter in the park, the crooked hearts in Elior's drawings, these were the things that anchored her. She no longer needed to explain why she left. She no longer rehearsed what she'd say if anyone ever found out. Her story wasn't about Kaylin anymore. It was about what she chose after him. At the community center, her Saturday class had grown. Word had spread that Miss Soline taught without judgment, that she let kids make messes, paint outside the lines, and name their mistakes something beautiful. One girl painted a lopsided house and called it Storm Shelter. A shy boy who never spoke brought her a folded napkin with a sketch of 2 hands, one small, one large, reaching toward each other. And one afternoon, a mother pulled her aside. "My daughter doesn't talk much," she said, "but when she gets home from your class, she tells us everything you said. You're doing more than teaching her to paint." Soline smiled. "She's teaching me too." Kaylin kept his distance. Every Sunday, he brought Elior to the park. Never late, never early. He sat on the same bench by the maple tree, sipping coffee, thumbing through a book he never really read. Soline watched him sometimes, wondering how a man could be both familiar and foreign in the same breath. He looked softer now, less armor, more weight in his eyes. But she never asked what he did with his days. never asked if he was still building empires or if the silence of their old penthouse haunted him like it used to haunt her. Their conversations were about Elior, never about them. And that's how it stayed, until the day Elior got sick. It started with a cough, then fatigue. Kaylin showed up at the park alone. Solane looked around, confused. Where's Elior? Kaylin's voice cracked. He's in the hospital. They think it's viral. But his breathing, it got bad fast. Her chest clenched. What hospital? Methodist. Room 309. I'll come, she said. He nodded, then added, only if you want to. She was already grabbing her bag. The hospital room was white and cold and far too quiet. Elior lay curled under a pale blanket, 4 taped to his hand. His cheeks were flushed, lips dry. He opened his eyes when they walked in. Solane sat beside him without hesitation. I brought your sketch pad, she said softly. He smiled weakly. Did you bring purple? Always. She placed it in his hands. He scribbled a tiny heart in the corner of the page. Can we paint when I get better? Selene's throat tightened. Absolutely. Kaylin stood by the window, watching the scene with a hollow stillness. That night, Kaylin stayed at the hospital. Selene brought coffee from the lobby. They sat in the hallway, 2 chairs apart. He finally spoke. I didn't want this, he said. I didn't want to be the man who ruins everything. You didn't ruin everything, she replied. You just stopped choosing what mattered. He nodded. You were what mattered. She looked at him. Too late doesn't erase the truth, but it doesn't mean you don't try to be better now. His voice broke. How do you forgive someone who never gave you the chance to stay? Solane inhaled slowly. You don't ask for forgiveness. You live in the loss until it teaches you something. Then you live differently. Kaylin said nothing, but his silence felt like surrender. Not defeat, just recognition. Elior improved. 3 days later, he was home. Selene brought soup and fresh sketch pads. She didn't stay long, but she hugged him, and he whispered, missed you. Weeks passed. The chill in the air deepened. One Sunday, Elior asked if they could paint at Selene's apartment. Kaylin hesitated. I can drop him off, he said, but I don't want to make it complicated. Selene considered it. Her home had been her haven, her retreat from all the parts of life that hurt, but Elior had become part of that healing. She nodded. Just him. That Sunday, Elior ran into her apartment like he had always belonged there. He plopped his backpack on the floor and unzipped it dramatically. Ta-da! He pulled out a rolled-up sheet, his masterpiece. It was a timeline, scribbled and messy and wonderful. Pictures of him and her at the park, at the hospital, laughing, drawing, sitting. At the bottom he'd written, my new story. Selene blinked fast to keep the tears back. You made this? He grinned. With Dad's help, but mostly me. She crouched beside him. It's beautiful, he whispered, because you're in it. Elior hugged Selene goodbye and ran to the car. Kaylin looked at her. Thank you. For letting him in. She held the door, unmoving. You let him in too, she said. I just didn't know he existed. He swallowed. I know I don't deserve this second chance. Not with you. Maybe not even with him. But I'm trying to be the man he can count on. She didn't answer. She simply nodded once, then closed the door. Softly, not angrily, but with the quiet power of a woman who knew what closure sounded like. She turned back to the living room. The rolled-up drawing lay open on the coffee table. A whole timeline, a whole new story. And this time, she hadn't been edited out. Selene sat in her kitchen, elbows resting on the table, eyes fixed on the rolled-out drawing Elior had left behind. It told a better love story than the one she had lived. Not romantic, human, simple, true. Her smile, his stars, their Sundays. She had never been someone's beginning before. Kaylin had met her in the middle of a dream. But Elior, he met her without history, without shame, without comparison. He saw her and decided She belonged in the picture. That kind of inclusion healed deeper than apologies. Her classes were full, her brushes cleaned. She started a new painting that afternoon. One of 3 figures walking across a golden field, one tall, one small, one at a distance. She didn't name it, but she knew what it meant. Later that week, Kaylin called. She didn't ignore it. She answered, short and calm. "Elior's school is hosting a family day," he said. "He asked if you could come." "I'm not family," she said softly. "He thinks you are." Solène didn't respond right away. Then, "Send me the details." Family day was loud, chaotic, filled with too many balloons and not enough chairs. Solène arrived in soft jeans and a black turtleneck, trying to blend in. Kaylin stood near the gym entrance in dark slacks, looking as un-billionaire-like as he possibly could. Elior spotted her and ran straight through the crowd, arms open. "You came. Wouldn't miss it." He dragged her to his table where paper crowns were being made. "This one's for you," he said, handing her a purple crown with Queen of Colors written in shaky handwriting. She placed it on her head without hesitation. Perfect fit. Kaylin stayed back, letting them have their moment. She caught him watching her once, eyes full of something that wasn't regret or longing. Respect. A quiet respect for a woman who didn't burn down his world, but rebuilt hers instead. A boy at the table asked Elior, "Is that your mom?" Solène froze. Elior paused, shrugged. "She's my painting friend." The other boy blinked. "Cool." And just like that, it was over. No questions, no judgment, just a fact accepted like a favorite color. She exhaled through a smile. After the games and crafts, Kaylin offered to walk her out. She nodded and fell into step beside him. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I didn't think I'd say yes." They stopped by the school gate. "Elior looks happy," she said. Kaylin nodded. "You had something to do with that." Solène turned to him. "So did you." He looked at her, serious now. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and the worst mistake I ever made." She didn't flinch. "I know. I'll never stop being sorry." She nodded once. "Then keep showing up. Not for me, for him. I will." That night, Solène painted the field again. This time, the 3 figures were closer, not touching, but walking in the same direction. That was enough. She titled the piece, Almost. And she smiled, because sometimes, almost was still more than nothing. Solène didn't expect things to change after Family Day. She thought it was a one-time window into Elior's world, a gentle visit, a kind memory. But the following weekend, he knocked on her apartment door. Not Kaylin, Elior, alone, holding a paper bag and wearing socks with stars on them. She opened the door, surprised. He smiled. "Dad's downstairs." "But I told him I could come up by myself. Is that okay?" She stepped aside. "Of course it is." He walked in like he'd been coming for years. Inside the paper bag were 2 muffins, chocolate chip, slightly smushed. "I picked them." "Not Dad." "Excellent choice," she said. They sat on the couch, splitting one with their fingers. He pulled out his sketch pad and a single pencil. "I wanted to draw something new," he said, "but I don't know what." "Close your eyes," Solène said. "What's the first thing you hear?" He closed them tight. "Your fridge is humming." She laughed. "Besides that." He paused again. "I think I hear safe." She tilted her head. "What does safe sound like?" He opened his eyes. "Like this room. Like your smile. Like a place I want to stay." She didn't speak. She just reached for her own pencil. That Sunday, Kaylin didn't come upstairs. When Elior went down later, Solène followed to say goodbye. Kaylin stood by his car, hands in his pockets, eyes tired. "He told me what he said," Kaylin said softly. "He said he feels safe." Kaylin nodded once. "Thank you." Solène leaned on the edge of the passenger door. "He's growing. Not just taller, wiser. And he's doing it well." Kaylin hesitated, then said something unexpected. He asked if you and I would ever be friends again. Celine blinked. What did you say? I told him I didn't know, but that I hoped you'd say yes first. She looked at him a long moment. I'm not sure I know how to be friends with the version of you I used to love. Kaylin didn't look away. That version doesn't exist anymore. I know. A beat of silence. But the version you're becoming, she added. I think I could get to know him. Slowly. His shoulders eased. Not with joy, with respect. And that was better. The next Sunday, Kaylin knocked on her door. Not Elior. Kaylin. Alone. She opened it, cautious but calm. I brought my own muffin, he said. She laughed, unprepared for the softness of that. He held up a sketch pad of his own. I was wondering if maybe I could join you two today. Selena didn't answer right away. Then she stepped back and opened the door wider. Don't ruin the color harmony, she warned with a smirk. He stepped inside. Elior arrived a few minutes later and beamed when he saw his dad already drawing. You started without me. Had to warm up, Kaylin replied. Selene sat between them, the quiet center of a moment that didn't need labels. They painted, they talked, they laughed. No one brought up the past. No one asked what tomorrow meant. They were simply three people who had found their way back to something honest. That night, Selene stood at her window, watching the city below. A year ago, she had walked away from a locked door, a door that hid betrayal. But in walking away, she had opened another, one that held healing, one that made room for Elior, and one that let Kaylin prove, with time, with effort, that even broken men could learn to build trust again. Not for love, not for romance, but for legacy. She returned to her canvas, painted 3 stars again. But this time, they weren't still. They were moving, each shining toward the same corner of the sky. The following weeks became a rhythm. Sunday afternoons, 3 chairs, 2 sketch pads, 1 child who believed joy could be colored in. Sometimes they painted at her place. Other times, at the park or the community center after hours. Kaylin showed up every time, quiet, present. He didn't ask for anything, didn't pry into her private life. And Solane didn't offer more than what the moment needed. It was peaceful, but even peace, she knew, couldn't erase the weight of everything that came before. One Sunday, after Elior had finished drawing a mural of space animals. With superpowers, Kaylin lingered behind while Elior packed up. Selene had just wiped paint from her hands when he spoke. He asked me last night if you'd be there when he turns 6. She looked at him. When is it? 4 weeks. I'll be there, she said simply. Kaylin nodded, relief flickering behind his calm face. Solene placed her brush down. You don't have to thank me for showing up for Elior. I'm not, he replied. I'm thanking you for still making room. For anything. She said nothing, but her silence didn't close the door. It held it open. Later that night, Solene sat on her balcony. She scrolled through old photos on her phone, most from years ago. Some of Kaylin when he still laughed with his eyes. She didn't feel pain anymore. Not exactly. Just a distant ache. The kind you feel when you remember a song that used to mean something. A soft tug, not of love, but of loss. She thought about how fast it had all shifted, from stolen kisses and shared dreams, to silence and locked doors, to this slow return of something new, not love, not yet, maybe not ever, but honesty, respect, the first bricks of something rebuilt, not just replaced. The next day, Kaylin sent a message, 1 line. Would you meet me for coffee? Just us. Solene stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. Yes, no. What would it mean either way? She left it unread. Closed the phone and returned to her easel. 2 days later, he waited for her outside the community center. Solene spotted him as she exited. Didn't see a text, she said. I figured you might not reply. She tilted her head. Why'd you come anyway? To show you I'm still learning, he said, and that I don't get to stop just because it's hard. That made her pause. They stood on the sidewalk. No plan, no place to go. Just the tension of two people deciding if history should have a future. She broke the silence. There's a place down the street. Quiet. No crowd. He smiled. Lead the way. They sat across from each other, the table between them bare except for 2 mugs and an awkward silence. Kalin stirred his coffee. Solène sipped hers without sugar. I don't know what this is, he said finally. Us. This. She met his eyes. It doesn't have to be anything. Not right now. I used to think I had to win you back. She raised a brow. And now? I just want to be someone worthy of your peace. That silenced her. Not because it was poetic, but because it was finally true. I didn't come to be forgiven, he added. I came to keep showing up. Even if it's just to hold Elior's backpack while you two paint. Solène folded her hands. You've changed, Kalin. I've had to. I lost the only person who ever knew who I was before all of this. His gaze didn't drop. And for once, she didn't feel the need to look away. After coffee, they walked the street in silence. No hand-holding, no lingering stares. Just step after step. She didn't invite him in. He didn't ask. But at her door, she turned to him. You hurt me, she said. Not just with the child, with the absence, with the way you stopped choosing me. I know. You built a room in our house and never told me. He closed his eyes. And every day, I regret it. She nodded. Good. Some things should be regretted. That's how you know they mattered. Then she opened the door and stepped inside. Alone, but not cold. That night, she painted something different. A window, wide open. Behind it, a figure walking past. Not entering, not staying, just passing by. Below it, the words, sometimes peace is what you protect, not what you share. She didn't text him the next day, but on Thursday, Kalin sent a photo of Elior wearing a birthday crown he made out of paper towel rolls. The caption read, Guess who wants purple balloons and a glitter cake? She smiled, then replied, Tell him we'll need extra glitter. The past was still there, still real, still painful, but it no longer owned her. And it no longer defined Kalin either. He wasn't the man she loved, but maybe he could still become the man who kept showing up. And sometimes, in the right light, that was enough. The birthday came faster than anyone expected. Elior had been counting down for weeks, crossing out days on his superhero calendar, reminding everyone of the exact hour he was born, and making a new guest list every 3 days. But the constants were always the same, his dad, his painting friend, and purple everything. Solène arrived early that Saturday, arms full of streamers, handmade cupcake toppers, and a wrapped box that rattled when shaken. Kalin had decorated the townhouse backyard, simple, warm, no media, no corporate photographers. He hung purple and yellow balloons on the wooden fence himself. There was a rented art station with blank canvases and washable paints. Little chairs lined up around a long table covered in a galaxy print cloth. Solène looked around as she stepped onto the patio. You did. Kalin smiled. Elior supervised. He has good taste. He gets that from someone, Kalin said, then turned away quickly, almost shy. Solène didn't respond. She didn't have to. Elior ran out of the house like joy in motion. His crown, this time made of felt and glitter glue, tilted slightly over his curls. Miss Solène, I saved you the purple chair. She followed him to the table, heart already soft. The party filled up fast. School friends, a few parents, teachers. No press, no whispers. Kalin moved quietly between guests, pouring juice, fixing a knocked over easel, letting Solène take the lead at the painting station. She helped the kids mix colors, showed them how to make stencils with sponges. Elior stayed beside her most of the day. When they cut the cake, purple inside of course, he asked her to light the candles. When it was time for presents, he opened hers last. Inside, a custom sketchbook with his name embossed in silver and a note inside the front cover. To Elior, who sees the world in color and teaches it to others. Keep creating. He hugged her so hard she almost lost her balance. Best present ever, he whispered. As the sun began to lower and most guests trickled out, Celine stayed behind to help clean. Kaylin worked beside her, quiet, focused. No music, no awkwardness, just a kind of shared ease. They stood at the kitchen sink washing paint cups, the silence between them gentle. "You were great with them," he said. "I've had practice." Kaylin dried a sponge. "Elior told me something yesterday." She glanced over. He said, "I think Miss Celine is magic." Solena smiled. "He's not wrong." Kaylin nodded. "I think he believes you're what changed everything." She turned to face him. "He's the one who saved you." Kaylin held her gaze. "Maybe he saved both of us." Later, as she grabbed her coat from the hallway, Kaylin followed her to the door. He didn't lean in. He didn't reach for her hand. He simply said, "You always were the best part of me." Celine didn't flinch this time. "You don't need to say that." "I know. But I wanted to." She opened the door. Outside, the sky was purple. She looked at him once more and said, "Don't be the man who lets the best things go again." Then she walked into the dusk. Not with sorrow, not with hope. Back in her apartment, she unwrapped the tissue paper around a surprise gift Elior had hidden in her purse. It was a tiny hand-painted rock, written across it in shaky letters, "Forever Friend." Solène placed it on her windowsill beside the candle that never stopped burning. The city shimmered below, and this time, she didn't feel alone in it. What would you do if someone broke your trust, but showed up every day trying to earn it back? Would you forgive them? Would you open that door again? If this chapter moved you, drop a comment below. Would you have stayed or kept your peace? And if you believe real healing is slow, quiet, and sometimes purple and glitter-covered, like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories for more unforgettable moments of love, loss, and quiet redemption. 2 weeks after the birthday, Solène started painting with her windows open again. She hadn't done that in almost a year. Not since the day she sat by the penthouse glass, gripping the key that didn't belong. But things were different now. Not perfect, not resolved, but different. She no longer painted to escape. She painted to remember. Elior's laugh, Kaylin's quiet learning, her own decision to stay soft without losing strength. The colors were warmer now, braver, not afraid to blend. She was finishing a canvas when her phone buzzed. "Kaylin." She hesitated, then answered. "Hi." "Hey," he said. "I have a question, and it's okay if the answer is no." "What's the question?" He exhaled. "Would you come with us to the fall art fair next weekend?" Elior's school submitted his painting. He asked if you could be there when they hang it. Solène smiled. "He told me he entered, but not that it was accepted." It was. Top 5 in his grade. She leaned on the edge of her kitchen counter, heart quietly full. "I'll be there. Thank you." The fall art fair was held in an old train station turned gallery space. Brick walls, tall windows, light streaming in from above. Solène arrived just in time to see Elior's painting being hung. Purple, suns, stick people dancing, words across the top, "My happy space." Kaylin stood beside Elior, straightening the name tag below the frame. Elior spotted her and waved with both hands. "You made it." "Wouldn't miss it." He pulled her closer. "This is ours," he said proudly. "I painted it for me, but I made it because of you." She knelt beside him. "You did all of this." "I just handed you the brush," he giggled. "And the glitter." Kaylin approached slowly. "Thank you for coming." Solène nodded. "It's his moment. I'm just lucky to see it." He sees it the other way around. They stood together for a while, not talking. The gallery buzzed with other kids and parents. But for a few minutes, the space around them belonged only to the three of them. Elior's art, Kaylin's effort, Solène's choice. After the fair, they walked out into the crisp afternoon. Elior held both their hands. They passed a street vendor selling cinnamon pretzels. Kaylin bought 3. They sat on a bench across from a bookstore, tearing pieces off and sharing in silence. Elior leaned into Solène's side. "This is what happy smells like," he said. "Pretzels and you." She laughed softly. You have a good nose for feelings. Kaylin smiled, but didn't say anything. His silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was steady. Later that night, Solène stood in front of the canvas she had left unfinished. She picked up her brush, painted the final stroke, a tiny boy holding two hands walking between them. No faces, no details, just space, movement, connection. She didn't text Kaylin that night, but she didn't have to. The next morning, she found a small envelope in her mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside, a photo, a candid shot someone had taken at the fair. Elior laughing between them, arms stretched wide, paint on his cheek. On the back, one line written in Kaylin's handwriting, "For the family we didn't plan, but chose anyway." She ran her fingers over the ink, then tucked it into the corner of her mirror. Not for memory, but for presence. The photo stayed tucked in the corner of her mirror for days. Solène looked at it every morning. Not like a wound, not like a wish, just a reminder of what grew after everything broke. Kaylin didn't send another message that week. No follow-up, no invitation, no slow attempts to deepen what they hadn't yet defined. It surprised her, but it also relieved her. This wasn't about chasing a relationship. It was about rebuilding trust, one Sunday at a time. Elior's visits continued. He came with new art ideas, questions about color theory, and the latest joke from school. One Sunday, he arrived with something different, a shoebox. "What's that?" she asked. "My memories," he said. "I put them all in here." She sat on the rug beside him and helped him lift the lid. Inside were folded papers, bottle caps, a feather, a rock shaped like a heart, a plastic coin from a gumball machine, and a small photo of Solène he had cut from a newspaper article. She blinked. "Where'd you get this?" "Dad had it in a drawer," he said. "I asked for it." "You kept all this?" He nodded. "Because even when I didn't know you, I felt like I did." She couldn't speak. He reached into the box and pulled out the photo. "I'm putting this one in the middle now," he said. "Because everything else started after I met you." Her throat tightened. Elior didn't know how deep those words reached. He just knew how to love with clarity. Later that evening, she sent a short message to Kaylin. He brought his memory box. "You're raising someone extraordinary." His reply came quickly. "He wouldn't be half of who he is without you." No flirting, no pressure, just truth. And it felt real. The next Sunday, Solène brought something of her own. A small wrapped canvas, ribbon tied around it. "I wanted you to have this," she told Elior. He unwrapped it carefully. It was a painting of a field under stars, 3 shadows walking across it, one small, 2 taller. He traced the shapes with his finger. "Is this us?" She nodded. "It's your story, our story, painted with every quiet Sunday we didn't waste." He stared at it. Quiet for once. Then he said, "I'm going to hang this right next to my bed." Kaylin stood at the door watching. He said nothing, but his eyes said everything. A week later, Kaylin invited them to a small gathering. Just 3 other families from Elior's class. Board games, pizza, nothing grand. Solène hesitated. She hadn't said yes to anything that put her beside Kaylin in that kind of way, but Elior's voice in the background sealed it. "Please, you'll make it fun." She sighed. "All right, but I'm bringing markers. No boring game nights on my watch." He cheered. Kaylin laughed. And something settled between them. No tension, no expectations, just comfort. That night, Solène journaled again. Not about pain, not about betrayal, about growth, about what it meant to leave with dignity and return without losing it. She wrote, "He never needed to deserve me again. He only needed to respect that I came back different." She placed the journal beside her bed and slept easier than she had in years. The game night was simple, unremarkable to anyone else, but to Solène, it felt like crossing a quiet threshold. The townhouse felt warmer than she remembered. She hadn't returned since the night she left it all behind. The walls were the same, but the energy was different. No more locked doors. No more secrets hiding in plain sight. Elior ran ahead, arms full of coloring books and snack bags. Kaylin met her at the doorway. "You okay?" She nodded. "I didn't think I'd ever step into this place again. You didn't have to." "I know," she said, scanning the room. "But I wanted to see what changed." Kaylin looked at her. Everything. The kitchen smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. Pizza boxes were stacked on the counter. Juice cartons lined up like old friends. Elior dragged Celine straight to the living room, where the other kids were building towers out of cards and Jenga blocks. "You get the purple seat," he announced. "It's the fun seat." Celine bowed. "An honor I do not take lightly." Kaylin lingered in the hallway, speaking briefly with one of the other parents. His eyes kept drifting back to her. She noticed, but said nothing. As the night unfolded, laughter bounced off the walls. Celine surprised herself with how easy it was to laugh, to join, to stay. She helped referee a drawing contest between Elior and his best friend, who insisted a dinosaur could be purple with wings and a crown. She didn't argue. She handed him glitter glue instead. Kaylin watched it all unfold, not from a distance, but without interfering. He let her shine without pulling focus. It was something she had begged for years ago, this kind of presence. Back then, he didn't know how to give it. Now, he simply offered it like second nature. Later, when the guests were gone and the house quieted, Kaylin handed her a cup of tea. She leaned against the kitchen counter. "I half expected to walk into the same place I left. You didn't." She looked around. No locked doors, no tension, no lies. She met his eyes. "That was the worst part, not what you did, but how you hid it." Kaylin swallowed. "I know, secrets have weight," she said, "and I carried yours without even knowing." He didn't argue. He didn't explain. "I carry it now," he said, "but only what's mine." That moment, simple as it was, felt like a peace offering. As she moved to leave, Kaylin walked her to the door. "You didn't have to stay this long," he said. "I didn't plan to," she admitted. "But you did." She paused, hand on the doorknob. "I'm still learning how to be part of this without losing what I rebuilt." "You haven't lost it," he said. "You've just added something new." She nodded. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." She stepped out onto the porch. He didn't follow, but before she walked down the steps, he said her name. "Celine." She turned. "I'm proud of who you are now. Not because of me, but because you chose to grow when I gave you every reason not to." It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a plea. It was just truth. She held his gaze, then said, "I'm proud of you too. Not because you changed, but because you stayed when it mattered." Then she walked into the night, not unsure, not afraid, only whole. The night after the game gathering, Celine sat with her journal open, pen hovering. She didn't know what to title the entry. Nothing dramatic had happened, no breakthrough, no apology begging to be dissected. But she had stayed, she had laughed, she had left without feeling hollow. So she wrote, "Some returns aren't about going back. They're about standing tall in a space you once had to crawl out of." On Tuesday, she got a message from Kaylin. "Kay, he wants to build a family tree. For school. He asked where to put you." "S, what did you say?" "Kay, I told him to ask you." "S, tell him I'll help him build it. He can decide where I belong." Elior arrived that Saturday with a giant sheet of paper, markers, and a glue stick. He didn't even take off his shoes. "We're doing this now," he said, dragging the art supplies to the coffee table. "And I want it to be real. Not perfect, just real." Celine smiled. "You've been listening to me too much." They started with the obvious. His name in the center, Kaylin's name above. His mother's to the left. Celine sat quiet, letting him lead. Then came the moment. Elior held up the marker, looked at her, paused. "You're not a mom, but you feel like something." Celine waited. He leaned over and drew a small sun beside his name. Then he wrote, "My light." Her breath hitched. "Is that okay?" he asked. She nodded. It's perfect. Later that evening, Solène stared at the paper again, not because of where she appeared, but because she hadn't needed to ask for a place. Elior had given her one, not from guilt, not from confusion. From clarity. She mattered to him, and that mattered more than any label. A few days later, Kaylin dropped off dinner, a quiet surprise. Not flashy, not expensive, just a container of homemade stew, bread wrapped in foil, and a note. That read, "For the one who always knew what warmth should feel like." She didn't reply, but she ate every bite and placed the note in the same drawer as Elior's memory box photo. That weekend, Kaylin and Solène sat on the steps of her building while Elior chalked animals on the sidewalk. Kaylin passed her a cup of tea. She didn't ask how he knew which kind she liked. "I don't want to push," he said. "You're not." "I also don't want to pretend this hasn't changed." Solène sipped. "It has. But that doesn't mean it's going anywhere." Kaylin nodded. "I don't want to go anywhere. Not unless you ask me to." She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said, "Let's not name this yet. Let's just keep showing up." And he agreed. That night, she painted again. 3 chairs, 1 canvas, a new tree growing in the background, not rooted in what was lost, but in what was learned. Thanksgiving came with frost in the air and questions Solène didn't expect. The community center was hosting a potluck. Parents brought dishes, kids brought noise. Solène planned to keep it simple, a warm casserole, a smile, and maybe an early exit. But then Elior asked, "Are you coming to dinner?" She blinked. "To the center? No. With us. Our house. Real Thanksgiving. Dad said he didn't want to invite people, but I told him you're not people. You're..." She smiled. "That's a strong argument." He grinned. "So, yes?" She paused. Not because she didn't want to go, but because the version of her from last year would have run from that table, not toward it. But now, "Okay," she said. "Yes." Kaylin didn't bring it up, didn't over-explain, didn't try to make it more than it was. When she arrived that evening, he opened the door like it was routine, like she had been coming to Thanksgiving dinner for years. The table was simple. 3 plates, candles lit, a playlist humming quietly from the speaker. "I hope you're okay with sweet potatoes," Kaylin said. "Elior made me promise to use extra cinnamon. He knows me well." She placed her coat on the chair and joined them like it had always been this way. Dinner was full of laughter, light teasing, and second servings. Elior led a toast with orange juice to found family. Because sometimes the best people aren't born into your story, they draw themselves in. Kaylin raised his glass. To drawn-in people. Solène lifted hers last. To those who chose to stay and those who left to grow, they clinked their glasses gently. After dessert, Elior fell asleep on the couch, his head on a pillow he insisted was his thinking spot. Kaylin covered him with a throw blanket. The room was still, warm. Solène stood by the kitchen window, her mug between her hands. Kaylin joined her. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure I would." "I know, but I'm glad I did." "So am I." They stood side by side in the glow of the dim kitchen lights. No expectations, no old weight, just presence. "I think about that room sometimes," she said quietly. Kaylin didn't have to ask which one. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said, "keeping it separate, contained. But some truths don't stay in the rooms we build for them." He nodded. "It spilled into everything." She looked at him. "I'm not walking backward, Kaylin. I know. And I don't want to erase what we had, but I also can't pretend it didn't break something. I don't want you to pretend. I only want what's honest." That mattered more than flowers or pleas. She glanced down at her mug. "This is honest." He smiled. "Then let's keep it that way." She left quietly that night. No hugs, no drawn-out goodbyes. Just a soft "see you Sunday," and a look exchanged in the hallway that didn't carry pain or promises, only trust. And after all they had been through, that felt like more than enough. 3 days after Thanksgiving, Celine found herself at the gallery downtown, the same one, where she had once showcased her own work before her name was linked to Kaylin Vance. This time, she wasn't here as a featured artist. She was here to breathe. She wandered the space quietly, pausing in front of a canvas that showed a single chair in the middle of an empty room. The plaque beneath it read, "Stillness isn't silence. It's the space where healing happens." She stood there for almost 20 minutes, not crying, not analyzing, just standing. When she turned to leave, she saw Kaylin leaning near the entryway. He didn't speak at first, just nodded toward the painting. "That one says a lot." She smiled faintly. "I liked it before I read the plaque, but then it felt personal." He stepped beside her. "I didn't know you were coming. I didn't know you were either. I guess we still show up to the same kind of places. Or maybe we've finally stopped running from the same things." They walked through the next few pieces together. No commentary, no nervousness. She noticed he walked slower now, more thoughtfully, like he had stopped measuring moments in urgency and started letting them unfold. They stepped outside into the cold evening air. The streets were quiet, the sky soft with winter haze. Kaylin stuffed his hands into his coat pockets. "There's something I want to ask you, and I need you to know it's okay to say no." She turned to him, silent. "I want to start something new, something for Elior, a foundation for creative programs in low-income schools, art, music, writing, all the stuff that gets cut first." Her expression softened. "I want to name it after you," he said, "because everything that saved him started with your hands." She blinked, caught off guard. "I'm not asking for involvement or permission. I'm just asking to honor you in a way that matters." Celine looked at him, long and quiet. "Do it," she said, "but don't put my name on a plaque. Let the kids make the signs. Let them color it with their own hands. If you're going to honor me, do it by making sure someone else gets the chance to heal through what I almost lost." Kaylin nodded slowly. "I will." That Sunday, Elior arrived with 2 drawings. One for her fridge, a cartoon of the 3 of them under a rainbow titled, "My People." The second he handed to her in private. It showed a paintbrush growing like a tree. From the branches, little stars dangled. He pointed to the words scribbled across the trunk. "I wrote your name, and roots. Because you're what helped me grow." Celine smiled, kissed the top of his head, and said, "Then keep growing, even when it gets messy." He grinned. "Messy is my favorite." The holidays approached quickly. Lights blinked across storefronts. Elior made ornaments out of clay. Celine painted smaller canvases, gifts she hadn't decided who to give to yet. One afternoon she got a delivery. No card, no note. Inside, a wooden frame, empty, carved by hand. At the bottom, etched in simple block letters, "You gave me the colors. This is for what comes next." She stared at it a long time, then placed it on her table, and began a new piece. Christmas Eve came with quiet snowfall. Kaylin called that morning. "We're staying in tonight. Just the 3 of us. Movies, cocoa, and Elia's cinnamon popcorn. You're welcome if you feel like it." She paused, then said, "Save me a seat." The townhouse was soft with lights when she arrived. No silver, no gold, just warm yellows strung along the windows and tiny paper snowflakes Elior had made in bulk. He jumped into her arms the second she stepped in. "I made you your own mug," he said, holding up a cup that said Queen of Colors in shaky marker. "It's perfect," she said. Kaylin came from the kitchen, apron dusted with sugar. "You bake now." "I follow instructions now," he said. "Growth." They all laughed. They watched a movie under 3 blankets, drank too much cocoa, let Elior stay up past bedtime. And when he finally fell asleep, Kaylin carried him upstairs while Selene tidied the cups. He returned to find her on the couch, fingers curled around her mug. He sat across from her, not beside her, not too far, just enough. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began, "about what comes next." She listened. "I don't want to force anything, but if we keep showing up, Keep choosing what's real. I'd like to keep finding what next looks like. Together. She didn't answer right away. Then, I won't go backward. Not for you. Not for anyone. I wouldn't ask you to. But I also won't close myself off from something that feels honest. Kaylin's voice was steady. Then, let's leave it open. No definitions, just us. As we are. She nodded. Deal. Outside, snow fell softly onto the street. Inside, a woman who once walked away sat beside the man who had broken her heart. And for the first time in a long time, there was no bitterness, only warmth, only breath, only the gentle truth of two people. Showing up again, the new year crept in quietly. No fireworks, no resolutions, no crowded parties. Solène spent it with a cup of tea, a blank canvas, and Elior's forever friend Rock sitting at her windowsill. She didn't need noise. Her peace was enough. January mornings were sharp with cold, but inside her apartment, life moved in slow warmth. Elior visited as often as his school schedule allowed, sometimes for painting, sometimes just to sit on the couch and eat cereal while watching cartoons. Kaylin came by less often. Respectfully so. He understood that his presence was not owed. It had to be earned, moment by moment. One afternoon, Elior showed up with a sealed envelope. Dad says it's for you, and no, it's not weird. He said it's intentional. Whatever that means. Solène raised a brow, smiling. You're getting very good at quoting. Thanks, Elior said, taking off his shoes. I'm also very good at secrets. She opened the letter after he settled into his usual painting spot. It read, You once told me I didn't fix us, I replaced us. You were right. This isn't an apology. You've already seen what I'm doing to be better. This is a reminder. You are not the thing I lost. You are the reason I remembered what love should have looked like. I don't expect you to come back to me, but if you ever look back, I hope you don't see betrayal. I hope you see how hard I tried to make sure Elior never repeats my mistakes. It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. Solène folded the letter gently, placed it in her drawer, not in the box where she kept past pieces of her life, not in the journal where she processed pain, just in the drawer, next to the utensils, right between the practical and the familiar, because that's what Kaylin's letter felt like now. Real. Honest. Unromantic in the best possible way. The next Sunday, Kaylin came upstairs to pick up Elior. Solène opened the door before he knocked. You're early, she said. He smiled lightly. I don't like waiting in cars anymore. She stepped aside, letting him in. Elior was still coloring, mid-project. Kaylin waited in the entryway. Solène turned toward the kitchen. I read your letter. I figured you did. It was honest. That's all I wanted it to be. She poured 2 cups of tea, handed him one. You meant it, she said. All of it. I've never been clearer. She looked at him, steady. That letter wasn't just about us. It was a blueprint for the man you've become. He nodded. I hope so. She sipped her tea. Then keep becoming him. Even if I'm not at the end of that story, I will. Before he left, Kaylin helped Elior pack his art supplies. As he opened the door to leave, Solène spoke. Next weekend, she said. If you're free. He turned, cautious. I'd like to walk with you. No expectations, just a walk. Kaylin didn't smile, but the light in his eyes said enough. I'll be there. That night, she didn't paint. She didn't journal. She just stood by her window, watching the city breathe beneath her. Some people don't get second chances. Some don't deserve them. But when change comes without demand, when it's quiet, consistent, and clean, it's hard not to honor it. The following Saturday arrived with a kind of quiet that made people notice sounds they'd normally ignore. The soft buzz of the refrigerator, the wind brushing against the window screen, the echo of footsteps in a stairwell. Solène stood by the mirror, smoothing the sleeve of her coat. Not for Kaylin, but because she wanted to meet the day with intention. At exactly 10 a.m., a soft knock came at her door. No words, no long gaze. Just a man waiting, not assuming. She opened it, grabbed her scarf, and stepped out beside him. Their walk started with silence, not cold, not awkward, just peaceful. They went past the park Elior liked, through the quiet street near the flower market, then toward the waterfront. It wasn't about the path. It was about presence. "I almost sent another letter," Kaylin said, breaking the silence. "Why didn't you?" "Because I didn't want to say something I hadn't lived yet." Selene nodded slowly. "You're learning when to speak and when not to. I had to lose everything to hear that lesson." She looked ahead. "You didn't lose everything." He didn't respond, but he walked a little closer. They sat on a bench facing the water. 2 cups of coffee, 2 lives that used to be one. Selene broke the silence this time. "Why Blair?" she asked softly. Not with venom, with calm curiosity. Kaylin exhaled. "Because she was easy. Because she never asked me to be more than I was. Because I didn't want to admit I was failing at home." Selene turned to him. "So you blamed me for your emptiness?" "I blamed everything but myself. And now I know I betrayed the one person who believed in who I could be." Her hands stayed on her lap. "I kept trying to prove I was strong," he continued. "But I wasn't brave enough to be soft." She looked at him quietly. "That was the part I needed from you," she said. "Not the success, not the empire. I needed the man who could sit in silence and still reach for me." Kaylin nodded. "I'm trying to become that now." They didn't speak for a while, until she said, "Do you know what Elior asked me last week?" "What?" "If his dad was sad, because he smiles with his mouth, but not his face." Kaylin's jaw tightened. "I've been trying to be okay around him. You don't have to perform for him. He reads people better than you think." "I know." Selene turned to face him fully. "He doesn't need a perfect father. He needs a present one." Kaylin swallowed. "I want to be that. Then keep showing up. Not as the man who wants to fix everything, but as the man who listens." They walked back slower. Kaylin didn't try to hold her hand. Selene didn't offer her arm. But when they stopped outside her building, he lingered. "Can I ask something?" he said. "Go ahead. If this ever becomes more again, would you tell me first, or would you let me find out in your smile?" Selene didn't laugh. She simply said, "If it becomes more, you'll feel it. It won't need words." Kaylin nodded. "Then I'll keep walking, until I do." That night, Selene added a new page to her journal. Not one of pain or reflection, but of observation. She wrote, "Redemption isn't loud. It's not grand gestures. It's small consistencies that change the weight of memory." She closed the journal, and for the first time since it all fell apart, she placed it back on the shelf instead of sleeping with it beside her bed. A week passed. Then, too, Kaylin didn't press. He didn't push. He simply parented. He simply showed up. One evening, Elior came home from his dad's with a bag full of books. "He's teaching me how to read blueprints," Elior said excitedly. "We're building a birdhouse from scratch. No kit, real tools." Selene smiled. "That sounds amazing." "It is. He lets me use the hammer." She knelt down. "You know why that's special?" "Because he trusts me?" "Exactly." Elior blinked, thoughtful. "Do you trust him again, Mom?" She paused. "I'm learning to." Another Saturday came. Another walk. Another cup of tea. Then, on the 3rd Sunday of the month, Kaylin brought Elior up early. Selene opened the door, surprised. "I know it's not my usual drop-off time," he said, "but Elior asked to come early. I hope that's okay." Elior ran in with excitement. "We have something to show you." Selene raised a brow. "We?" Kaylin pulled out a folded paper from his coat pocket, a floor plan, hand-drawn. It was a layout of a small garden rooftop, and in the center, a children's reading corner built into the shape of a treehouse. "What is this?" Selene asked, stunned. "It's a joint project," Kaylin said. "Elior's idea, my labor, your design. If you want it." Her breath caught. "It's not a grand gesture," he added quickly. "We've been talking about giving back. Something small, for other kids who don't have books at home." Selene stared at the plan, then at Kaylin, then at Elior, beaming with pride. "You're building this?" "Already started clearing the space," Kaylin said. "Legally, with permits and everything. And you want me to design it? We don't want it, unless you do." Selene blinked away, something in her eyes. Not tears. Something warmer, something deeper. Hope. She nodded. "Then let's build it." That night, as the three of them sat around the kitchen table sketching design ideas, Selene paused. Elior was scribbling tree shapes. Kaylin was labeling dimensions, and she was right in the center. Not between them, but beside them. Not every story ends with an apology or a reunion. Some end with growth. Some begin again, with nothing but a page, a pencil, and the quiet trust that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. The garden took shape in quiet shifts. No press releases, no ribbon cutting, just long afternoons of digging, painting, building, and learning how to trust again, without calling it that. Selene designed the reading corner like a sanctuary. Soft curves, natural light, low benches where children could sit cross-legged with their books. Elior helped pick the colors. Kaylin built the structure beam by beam. It wasn't grand, but it was good. Late one afternoon, Selene stood at the far end of the garden, organizing a crate of new children's books. It had rained earlier, and the scent of wet soil filled the air. Kaylin approached slowly, his hands dusty, sleeves rolled up. "Finished the north railing," he said. She didn't turn. "Good. We'll need that extra support when we bring in more kids." He nodded, then paused beside her. "Selene." She finally looked at him. "I haven't asked for much lately," he said, "and I won't start now. But this place, it means more to me than I can explain." "It's not just yours," she replied. "I know. That's why it matters." She waited. Kaylin reached into his back pocket and handed her a small photo. It was a Polaroid, faded at the edges. It showed them years ago, sitting on a cracked apartment balcony. She was laughing. He was barefoot, holding a mug of something. Elior was just a baby. "I kept this in my wallet through every board meeting," he said quietly. "Through the merger, through the first million, the first 100 million. Selene's eyes didn't blink. "This was the last time I knew exactly who I was," Kaylin added. "Before I started needing people to remind me." Selene took the photo, gently. "Why are you giving me this now?" "Because I don't want to hold on to the past to prove anything. I want to honor it." He stepped back, not expecting a reply. She watched him return to the structure, and for the first time, she didn't feel haunted by the memory. She felt full. The official launch of the rooftop garden came on a Sunday afternoon. No speeches, just families, snacks, music from a local string quartet, and free books for kids who had none. Elior stood proudly in front of the treehouse nook, explaining the blueprint to anyone who would listen. Kaylin stayed behind the scenes, managing logistics and helping parents carry things. Selene moved through the space like it was hers, because it was, not in title, in intention. Later, as the last few families trickled out, Elior tugged on Selene's hand. "Mom?" "Yes?" "I think Dad likes you again." She smiled, crouching to his level. "I think I like who he's becoming." Elior beamed. "Do people get to become new more than once?" "Yes," she said. "As many times as they're brave enough to try." A week later, Kaylin waited in the garden after Elior's school drop-off. Selene arrived with 2 mugs of tea. She handed him one, wordlessly. They sat beneath the canvas awning, legs stretched, silence unforced. "I almost asked if you wanted to try again," Kaylin said. She raised a brow. "But I realized something," he continued. "Trying again means expecting it to look like it did before." She nodded. "And we're not those people anymore. No, we're better, but different." Selene placed her mug down. "So, what would you call this now?" Kaylin looked around the garden, at the place they built, the sun they raised, the silence they no longer feared. "A beginning," he said. She leaned back, closing her eyes. "Then let it stay that. No pressure, No label, just presence. Exactly. That night, Elior painted a new rock and placed it on Celine's shelf beside the old one. This one said, "Forever Family." The gallery air smelled like fresh linen and lavender wax. It was opening night. Not for a world-famous artist, not for a billionaire, but for a woman who had learned to let go of pain without letting go of herself. Celine's exhibition, titled Transitions, didn't shout. It breathed. Paintings stretched across the room like pages of a journal only the honest could read. No titles, just moments. Brush strokes held questions, color blocks whispered answers, and in the corner, framed in simple wood, sat the painting that started it all, the one she created the night she found the key. Beside it, a plaque read, "Peace is what remains after clarity." Kalin arrived quietly, dressed in soft grey, no tie. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't make a scene. He walked in, nodded to her from across the room, and stood still, not to reclaim her, to witness her. Elior ran up moments later, pulling on Celine's sleeve. "Did you see Dad cry?" She laughed. "No." He cried. "Just one eye, though. But it counts." She ruffled his curls. "Everything counts." Later that night, after the crowd had thinned, Celine stepped outside the gallery. The street hummed with soft traffic. A street lamp buzzed above. Kalin stood by the curb, hands in his pockets. She joined him without words. "I never told you what I did with the key," he said. She looked over, calm. He continued, "I didn't throw it away. I keep it in my desk, not as a symbol of guilt, as a reminder." She nodded. "That sometimes we lock up the wrong things. And sometimes," he said, "it takes someone brave enough to copy it." They didn't speak for a while. Then Kalin turned to her, not expectant, not afraid. "Will I see you next weekend?" Celine smiled. "You'll see me tomorrow." The next morning, the three of them walked through Central Square together, not holding hands, not making declarations, just walking. Elior skipped ahead, spinning with his arms stretched wide. Kalin reached into his coat pocket and handed her a small card. It read, "Thank you for the silence, for the stillness, for letting me earn space in the life I once broke. I will not call this redemption. I will call it responsibility, and I will carry it with joy." Celine folded the card slowly. She didn't speak, but she didn't let go either. Kalin took that as enough. And maybe this was the point. Not a second chance. Not a big return. But a quiet, consistent presence. A man who no longer needed to be needed. A woman who didn't fear being alone. A child who never stopped believing in both. As they crossed the street together, Elior turned and yelled, "Wait up, slowpokes!" Celine smiled. Kalin laughed. And for the first time in years, the walk didn't feel like walking away. It felt like moving forward, together. If you believe some beginnings come after peace, not passion, subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. What did Celine teach you about quiet power, presence, and choosing clarity over control? Leave a comment. We read every word. And if you're still holding on to a key that opened the wrong door, maybe it's time to make a copy and open the right one.